We will go ahead and get started. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight for this month's edition of the Family Service and Guidance Center's Real World Parenting Series. So I'm Pam Evans. I head up the marketing and development for Family Service and Guidance Center. As you may know, FSGC specializes in treating kids of all ages who are struggling with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and other mental health issues. We are offering these free parenting workshops to the community because we totally understand that there's no handbook that comes with kids when we have them, and especially parenting in this day and age is not an easy thing to do, especially these past few months. So thanks so much for taking time out of your evening to learn more about how to help your child get ready for kindergarten beyond the ABCs. This evening, feel free, if you have questions, please enter those in the chat box, and I'm going to kind of help Ashley, and if they pop up, I'll jump in and kind of facilitate the conversation. We want to help you get answers to any questions, so please do ask. That's how we all learn best. So no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley Bennett, who leads our children's autism program here at FSGC. Take it away, Ashley.
All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. This is a presentation that I did last year at the Discovery Center, and we are trying to do a reduced format for Zoom tonight. So I apologize if I'm going fast. If I kind of speed through something and you have a question, feel free to type that in and let us know, and we'll definitely try to get back to that. I'm not on a strict timeline tonight, so I'm happy to help answer questions, do whatever we need to do tonight. So I do run the autism program here at FSGC, but my first love was really early childhood intervention and working with young children, which is why I volunteered to give this presentation. So did you all receive a survey with your invite? You're muted, Pam. Did they get it out? Yes. Okay, thanks. So the very first thing, other than this is the presentation, is going to be talking about that survey. So if you've had a chance to look at it, that'll really help us kind of pare down what we might need to talk about tonight. Kindergarten teachers are awesome. So if your kid is getting ready to go into kindergarten, or if you're kind of on the fence, if you're thinking, they're going to turn 5, do we wait another year? Are they ready now? Do they have the skills that they need? The stuff that kindergarten teachers are great at are teaching academics, really having a broad view of school readiness skills, and recognizing that play is a great teaching tool. They really know that kids learn best when learning is fun, and kindergarten teachers are amazing at that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping tonight to be able to give you that information in a way that you can use some of the kindergarten teacher tactics to work with your own kids on things that maybe they're not quite ready for yet. So that questionnaire that came out has questions that we got from the preschool life skills questionnaire. This was something that I was even trained on in the very first preschool that I worked in college. And it was really about preparing preschoolers for school, kindergarten, general life. And it has some really interesting skills that maybe we don't think about when we think about kindergartners. So are they able to respond, to stop what they're doing when you call their name? Do they stop what they're doing? Do they respond in a way that is appropriate, right? And if they don't, what does that look like? Do they ignore you? Do you have to say their name repeatedly before you get their attention? Is that something we need to work on? How about following instructions? If you tell them, go put your shoes on, how quickly do they do that? Or do you have to say, put your shoes on, put your shoes on, put your shoes on, like a broken record? And so each of those questions, and we're going to get into more detail as we go through the presentation, will kind of help us pare down some things that maybe we can work on. So that part where it says engages in problem behavior, it basically just means what do they do instead of what the expected behavior would be, and how do we start to get them there? So it's really just do they do the expected behavior that's in the middle, or is there something else that they do that's unexpected? So skills that can prevent some problems in kindergarten are those first couple of things I talked about: being able to respond appropriately to their name, really being able to stop what they're doing, turn and look at you, say what or yes. Following single step and multi-step instructions, those happen a lot in kindergarten. So it'll be like, everybody clean up your toys, it's time to line up, right? That's a 2-step. I've got to remember to clean up, and then I've got to remember to line up. Can they do both of those things? Do they get overwhelmed easily? Do they get lost in the middle of the instruction and distracted by other things in the environment? Skills that will encourage communication, both with the teacher and with peers, will be things like if they have encountered something that's hard or difficult that they can't complete on their own, do they ask for help? Do they get frustrated? What does that look like if they can't do a task? If they need attention, if there's something that they need, can they politely ask for attention, or are they doing all sorts of other things to try and get that attention? Can they wait for attention is also a big one. Kindergarten teachers have larger and larger class sizes, unfortunately, and their attention is going to be divided among quite a few kids. So sometimes working on being able to wait for attention, even if they can ask for something, ask for that attention appropriately. Can they wait if the teacher's doing something else with another student to then wait for a second before they get that attention? Requesting access to activities and items is a big one. Instead of taking everything that they want and need, can they go up and ask for permission? Skills that are going to build tolerance. Talked about this a little bit on the last one, but tolerating those delays from adults. When they're busy and there's a lot of things going on, can they wait? Or are they that broken record, mom, 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 I need a drink, right? And they're just repeating it, or they're getting louder and louder. Accepting delays from peers, same sort of thing. If somebody's really busy playing with something they want to play with, can they wait a few minutes for their turn? How well do they tolerate that kind of stuff? Skills that'll help them make friends in kindergarten, kind of some of those manners, saying thank you, greeting each other, knowing each other's names, really practicing knowing the names of kids in their class, complimenting others, offering toys or items to others. If they see someone who doesn't have something to play with, do they reach out to them and say, hey, come play with me. Do you want to play blocks? Comforts other people in distress. If they see somebody who's upset or who's hurt, do they go ask if they're okay? Do they offer to help? Really kind of developing some of those empathy skills. So what do we do? How do we teach each of your kids some of those skills that maybe are missing? If I mentioned a few things and you're like, oh, that's what happens in my house. How do we work on it before kindergarten? Well, talk to them about it. Decide together, hey, we want to work on some of these things to get you ready for school. Now more than ever, if they've been pulled out of preschool, if some of their social activities have been canceled, we may need to work a little harder even than you were planning on. There may be some things that have not had as much practice in the last couple of months. So talk about the skill, practice it together. If you've got a book or a video that implements that skill in a way that you can share and open up that conversation with them, that's a great way to start talking about it. But the real key is going to be setting up opportunities for them to practice those skills. So for example, if we're trying to develop that empathy piece, check on somebody if they're hurt, check on somebody if they're upset. Give them opportunities to practice that. Play like you're a kid. Act like something bad has happened or you've gotten upset, and then walk them through what to do. Come and say, are you okay? If you see somebody crying. And then if it does happen in the real world, use that opportunity as a teaching moment. If they have a sibling or a cousin or a neighbor that they are able to see right now and practice with, really use those times that come up. Whenever possible, include other kids. Use them as special helpers. Make sure that you are reinforcing them helping, really giving them a lot of praise and attention for being the helper, especially if they're older siblings. And if it's really boring for them, you may have to sweeten the deal a little bit for them and go, yeah, I know maybe this isn't as much fun, but once we do this, then I'll do Legos with you. Just work on some of those things as they come up throughout the day, but also if you can, set aside 5 minutes a day to go, we're going to start working on these skills to just really help my child feel ready and me feel ready that they're really going to thrive when they go to kindergarten. A big thing to point out here is that you want to keep it up. Make sure you're reinforcing your child as they get better and more independent with the skills that you're working on. Don't work on everything at once. Work on 1 or 2 things at a time as they get better at it. Don't forget to catch them doing it and reinforce them doing it occasionally. Like, oh, that was so nice how you asked your brother if he was okay when he fell down. If you start to notice the behavior slipping or changing, pull in another teaching session, pull in a practice session and just say, hey, I sort of noticed you forgot to do that. Let's practice it again. Use those skills yourself. That's a big one. If you're working on getting attention politely, saying excuse me when you want to talk to somebody, make sure that you're not just expecting your kids to do it, but that you are also modeling that behavior to them so that everybody is saying, oh, excuse me, I need you to go put your shoes on, please, so that they see you using those skills. And we got a little comic here. Can you tell your sister to get out of bed? Sure. And then she's screaming, Kate, get your booty out of bed. And Mom says, I should have been more specific. So just make sure that you are clear with your kid on what their expectations are, and really ready to reinforce when they use them. Independence is really important for kindergarten. How well does your kid respond when they spend several hours away from you? And you may not know in this environment. It may be something to try as things start to loosen up. If they're ready to separate, or if that's something that you need to work on. If you need to work on getting longer and longer periods of time away from them, because what we're really seeing is most kindergarten classrooms are full day now. When I went to school, they were half day. So they're gonna be in school 8 hours a day. And if they've been home with you, especially now, all day, every day, it's gonna be a big transition. So if there was any way to start working in chunks of time where they don't see you, but they build up that trust that you're going to be back and everything's fine, that's important. They'll pick up your cues. So if you are anxious about dropping off your child somewhere and they see that, they're going to feel anxious too. It's very common for parents to shed tears at kindergarten drop-off. Don't be ashamed of it. I was definitely one of those parents, and in a year or so, I will be one of those parents again. But I don't shed those tears in front of my kid. I get to the car. So, we're walking in brave-faced and like, this is going to be amazing. And then you have that little moment of like, oh, my baby's grown up. Can your child attempt to wash their hands on their own? Can they fasten their own pants, tie their own shoes, fasten their own shoes? Are they able to put on their own coat, use the bathroom without help? Can they pump legs on a swing? Most kindergartners can't do this, but their teacher will thank you immensely if they can, because there are only so many people who can push a kid on a playground. And this is a really fun one to teach if you get to go to a playground, if you have a swing in your backyard. It's a really simple technique to get in front of them and have them tap your hands with their toes. And then you can push their toes back and practice that out and in motion with their legs. So it can be a really fun thing that you work in during play. Are they able to carry backpacks and supplies? Do they know how to use zippers? Can they blow their nose without help? This is probably going to be even more important than any of us ever knew. But do they notice when they need to blow their nose instead of snorting it back up repeatedly? Or do you have to prompt them? Do you have to help them? And you can make this one a really fun game too. When they are not congested, don't play these games when they are. But when they're healthy and everything's clear, have nose races where you block one side of your nose and blow a tissue ball across the table and see who can win first. And it teaches them how to blow air out of their nose. And then you practice. Okay, we're gonna put the tissue over our nose and blow and see how far we can blow it. So you can make it silly, you can make it fun, but some of these skills, these self-help skills, will really lessen the load on your kindergarten teacher and help them be able to focus on academics, on reading, on writing. I always encourage parents to start working on personal information as soon as you can. Do they know their first and last name? Do they know their address, phone number, birthday, parents' names? These are really important safety information. They will teach them, they will work on them in kindergarten, but if you've got the time and the energy to start teaching some of these now, it's so crucial for kids to be able to tell somebody, I'm lost. These are my parents' names. Here's my mom's phone number. And it's really, really helpful when there is an emergency. So if they have to dial 911, can they get that emergency crew to your house? That kind of thing. So attention span. Can they sit still and pay attention for 10 minutes or more? If not, I'd really be practicing that. Practice it, see what happens. If they're out within 2 minutes, that may be something you really need to build up on over the summer. Can we sit and read a story? How well do they follow along? Can they answer questions about the story? Finally, using school supplies. Are they able to use scissors correctly? Can they hold them the right way? Do they flip their hands upside down? Can they cut without cutting toward their other hand? Have they learned how to turn the page if they're cutting out a circle? Can they open glue and use it? Do they know how to use glue sticks without cranking it all the way up? Crayons, erasers, pencils, just being able to use some of those things. Really make your play and learning fun. When you have time, take 10 minutes to play school. Take turns being the teacher. Use other kids or stuffed animals as part of the class. When you get good at it, sometimes when your kid is the teacher, act up a little bit as a child in the class and see how your child responds and help them develop empathy for that teacher when someone's not listening or following directions, when someone is distracted or too loud. What are they gonna do? And you may have to kind of walk through that with your child. You may have to really help them problem solve. What do we do when somebody else is acting up in your class? What's your teacher going to do? Now I say all of this and I want to really focus on each child learns at their own pace. If you notice a couple of things on this list that are currently missing, it's not necessarily cause for concern. Kids will develop and grow at their own pace and will really pick up things that they are missing. What is cause for concern if you notice whole sections or whole chunks of skills that are missing. So if we're pretty good at, let's say the paying attention and the following directions, but the social skills are really, really behind, that's where I would want you to focus. And if you're missing a big group of skills, you may need to reach out to your healthcare provider or another professional just to make sure there's not something additional going on. That's not meant to be scary. It's just that every kid develops differently. And if you're starting to notice that we're missing some key things that other kids their age can do, there may be something that can really help set them up for success without getting into kindergarten without those supports in place. So it's a good time to really evaluate, if I have concerns about my child, what do I need to do next? And who do I need to share those concerns with? I feel like that was very fast, but I think that was the point. So do we have questions?
I don't see any right now, but I do encourage anyone who has been on the call, if you're kind of wondering or have that question rattling in the back of your mind, I would bet someone else does as well. So please don't be shy or feel like, oh, it might be seen as a dumb question. No question is dumb. So if anybody has any questions, this is your opportunity, your time to bounce something off of Ashley tonight. Because it is an exciting time, but I think it's also kind of scary for some people. So and please feel free to type that in the chat if you do it. Oh, yay. Thank you for the question, Kayla. Okay.
Yay,
my daughter is super shy and I'm nervous about her first day. She will cry when she has new things, when we do new things like this. So can you speak to that a little bit, Ashley, and Amy, we'll get to your question next.
Okay. So I would really start talking with her about things that help her feel calm and things that help her feel brave. And maybe if she's got some particular characters or people that she looks up to who exemplify some like braveness, some calm, and really start practicing those skills. Like, okay, we're going to try something new today. What are some things we can do that help you feel calm? Because we all have those things in our lives, but they're very different for every person. So trying to identify for her, what can I do when I have these feelings? What do these feelings mean? Because being nervous, being shy about things is not necessarily a bad thing. It is her brain telling her, be careful, right? It is a natural response. I do a lot of public speaking, but I still feel nervous. Even tonight before I got ready, I feel those anxious, what if I mess up? What if I say too many times, which I probably did? What do we do with those feelings and how do we cope with those? So really just talking about it and then practicing it. That practice piece is so important. Just having a conversation does not necessarily change a behavior or start helping her brain learn how to handle those emotions. It's really going to be about, we're going to try to go into new situations that might make you feel uncomfortable, but how can we sit in this and decide that we're okay? A lot of times people will use with children sort of a rating scale or even a scale of like emojis, faces. How are we feeling right now in this situation? And how can we get to the happy face or to the calm face? You can also do on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you right now? Or how scared are you in this moment? And the goal is to have them practice getting that back down, getting those practice with their brain. How do we feel calm again? What do we need to do? It may be things like asking to take a break, asking for a few more minutes before joining. A lot of kids like to watch what's happening, especially in social situations, before joining in and letting her know that that's okay. Having an adult that they feel safe with, sort of practice those things. And man, it feels hard right now where you can't be in large groups with kids, but if there are kids that you are comfortable being around, where you can start practicing some of these things. We're going to try something new today, but here's how we're going to practice it. And if you get to where you are too uncomfortable, I will help you get out of it until you feel comfortable again. But we're going to keep trying. We're not going to quit, right? We're going to work on being brave and being calm. We can back up until we feel calm again, because you don't want to practice being anxious and upset at a really high level. You want to be able to keep it sort of in the mid-range and be able to work with her on bringing it down. So if you can develop a way for her that makes sense to her, and really talk about what are some of the things we can do that help us feel calm. Breathing is always a big one. Anybody who deals with anxiety or stress may notice more rapid breathing, or they hold their breath for longer periods of time. That's going to increase your heart rate. It's going to increase how your body feels and receives that stress. And so if you just take a breath, a big, long inhale, exhale, do that a few times, that makes a world of difference for a lot of people. And coming up with a way to talk about it in a kid version, we talk a lot about do your dragon breath, right? Especially for little boys who think, oh, breathing's boring. We have, we'll make toilet paper tubes, put tissue on the end of it, and we'll blow out our dragon breath so that the fire roars, right? And we just practice that deep from your lungs breathing that will help get oxygen to the brain, lower your heart rate, address those physical symptoms of anxiety. So I hope that helped. I hope that was helpful for your question.
Great. And we have a couple more, so this is good.
Great.
How important is being able to open items in their lunchbox or opening milk cartons?
I'd be working on that for sure. Again, being able to ask for help will be a big deal, but we do know that schools do not have enough adults per child, right? We've been hearing that from schools for years, that they aren't able to meet all of the needs of all of the kids. So any independence you can give your child, it can also help in social skills, because not everybody's going to show up knowing how to open their chips, right? But if they can reach over and help their friend because they know how to do it and we've practiced it all summer, it's really going to help them feel more comfortable.
Great. Okay. My daughter is 5. She has a February birthday and has been the oldest kid in her daycare peer group for quite a while. How can we work on the social and emotional skills before kindergarten, especially with the social and the physical distancing restrictions? Thoughts? Yeah.
So it sounds like they're probably not going to preschool right now, is my guess. Hello.
She did not say.
Yeah. But as much as possible, I would try to incorporate it in play. Play that school. Use your imagination. Really get in there and kind of respond like a kid would, like a 5-year-old would with them. Step out when you need to and be a parent and talk about, okay, here's how I would handle this situation. But also really try and get into character of, this is how a 5-year-old might respond if you knock over their blocks. What can you do about that? And really just practice those. I wouldn't try to do it in big chunks of time. Spread it out throughout your day, break it up into little manageable pieces. If you know the social skills is something we're really worried about, really practice those things. How are we going to make friends? What are some things you can do that will help you make friends? Those things for 5-year-olds are pretty simple, right? That you talk to them, that you share with them, and that you show caring and empathy, right? So those things that we kind of already talked about. Do they check on them when they're upset? 5-year-olds are going to be upset. Kindergartners are going to cry, and that's okay. So when you cry, do you want someone to check on you? If their answer is yes, then it's a really easy flip to say, okay, if you see somebody else who's crying, they may want you to check on them too. I'd also throw in there, and it's not something I had included, but how do you deal with someone who's really angry? I'm thinking we're probably going to see some kids who may come to school really angry this year, and with a lot of change that has happened over the course of the year. What do you do when you see that? How do you stay safe, right? If someone is really, really angry and upset, and how do you help your friends and yourself stay out of the way so that your teacher or whoever's going to help that kid work through that situation, can you find something to do away from that situation? That is not the time to go up and say, hey, are you okay? Right? Sadness, yes. Anger, no. Most people when they're angry don't want to be talked to. especially at that level that we will probably see some kids at in kindergarten. So you may practice that. You may practice somebody really getting upset and going, this isn't the one. This is not the time when we go, because they may be crying, but they're crying out of anger and frustration and maybe in a way that they can't communicate. So talking is not going to probably help in that situation. And the best thing they can do is go find something else to do away from that situation. But I break it up. I break it up into small pieces and practice. Work on it as you see things come up, and really just make it fun. Don't make it seem like it's work. Even though I'm using the word work a lot, it should be fun.
Let's see. I don't see any other questions at this time. I do want to let everybody know we are placing the PowerPoint that Ashley put together for us, the questionnaire, as well as the recording. The recording probably won't be up until tomorrow. But if you go to fsgctopeka.com/parenting-resources, or when you get to the main page, there is a blue box, a button on the right-hand side that says Parenting Resources. That's the button to click on in case you want to just go back and take a look at something. If you had a question or just wanted to pass it along, feel free to pass these resources along to anyone else that you think might benefit. So let me double check.
Pam, I did think of one more thing I didn't say.
Please.
Along the lines of kids develop at their own pace. Don't feel pressured by their age, that they've already turned 5, they've been 5 for a while, that they have to go to kindergarten this year. It's not a requirement. In the state of Kansas, kids aren't required by the state to go to school until the age of 7. Most kids go to kindergarten at 5 or 6. My child's got a weird birthday and is not going to enter kindergarten until well after. She'll be almost 6 because she won't be 5 early enough to get in this year. It'll have to be next year. But if she weren't ready, I wouldn't have any qualms about taking a year and spending that time building up those skills because it's so important to really have your kid thrive. It can set the stage for school for years to come. And you don't want to be backtracking if you can help it. If you see my child's not ready, what do I need to do to get them ready? And if you're at that place, I'd really be reaching out to some more professionals going, they're already 5, but they're not behaving in a way I see other 5-year-olds behave or in a way that I would expect them to behave at this point. I'd really be looking for extra help because it's out there. And your doctor can point you in the right direction. You can definitely contact FSGC if you have some of those concerns. But don't feel stuck to a timeline. Try to think about kindergarten as a way when your child's ready to go learn. If they're not ready for academics because social and emotional needs to happen first, I would put that first because that will make their school life so much better in the long run. And if they're the oldest kid in their class, they're also the tallest kid in their class.
That is true. That is true. All right. Well, Ashley, great stuff. I'm looking one more time to see if there are any other questions that popped up, and it doesn't look like it. Again, we thank you all for joining us this evening, and we do these workshops every month, once a month, different topics. So, you know, if you're not already following FSGC on Facebook, please consider doing that because we put a lot of information out for the community, for caregivers and parents, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help kids and families who are struggling. So thanks so much for joining us once again, and have a great evening and the weekend's coming up.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.